All right, ladies and gentlemen, man, I got a special treat for you guys today. Many of you may know, and many may not know, but we're blessed to have as a guest today the legendary Bernard Clark. If you don't know him, he is a University of Miami football legend. I don't remember all the years that he played at University of Miami, but if you're a University of Miami fan and you've been paying attention since the '80s through their championship years back in the day. All right, this is one guy that you certainly know. He was instrumental to all of their national championship runs at middle linebacker. He was my coach at Liberty University. A solid guy, solid dude, someone that I came to see every single day that I was at Liberty University just to get a word from the guy. A motivational speaker like none other. Just a solid guy all around. So today he's in town. He stopped by to see your boy. So this is none other than Mr. Bernard Clark, Coach Bernard Clark. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Yourself, Aaron?
I'm doing very well, doing very well.
Well, we got to make sure before we go on. We got to make sure we add the junior. I didn't use the junior when I was in college, but I use the junior now because of my father. As I got older and I understood why he named me after him, and I was proud to be named after him. And now that he's passed on, I always use the junior. So I appreciate Bernard Clark's fine, but I always use the junior now because of my father. I want to make sure I represent him.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. I can definitely respect that. Rest in peace, Mr. Bernard Clark Sr. I had a chance to meet Mr. Bernard Clark Sr. a couple of times. Outstanding guy, outstanding guy. So may he rest in peace, and may your journey along this life as you move forward, and in the world, may your life be a tribute, all right, to not only your dad's life but the rest of your family and your family's name.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good. All right. So for some that may not know, just give a brief background of yourself. I know you're from Tampa, which is where we're located now. You went to Leto High School. I do know.
Leto.
Oh, excuse me. I'm not a tech. What do you call it?
Everybody calls it Leto. No, it's Leto. It's Leto High School, Leto Comprehensive High. It's located in town and country. I went there before I went on to play football at the University of Miami. I received my degree in business administration, and after that, I was drafted in the third round by the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know about the legend, but I appreciate that, Aaron. I really do.
Man, get out of here.
But I did my part down at the University of Miami. Had a real good career while I was down there. One most valuable player in one of the national championship games that I played in. Won 2 national championships. Played a couple years in the NFL, and I always tell everyone the reason I played 2 and not 10. Because I never became a student of the game the way I should have been. I didn't study film the way Ray Lewis studied film, or Junior Seau studied film, or Ed Reed, or Mike Irvin. I didn't study film that way. I'm 6'2". At the time, I was 240. And I figured, hey, I've been hitting people and knocking people out ever since I played Pee Wee ball, so I can continue to do that once I get to the NFL. But it's not like that. It's a whole nother game at that level. You got a whole lot of guys who are fast and can hit and run. So you got to separate yourself. And I didn't separate myself, was there. So Coach Wanstay used to always say, coaches don't cut players, players cut themselves. So I cut myself because I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and I didn't learn the game the way I was supposed to learn the game, and I didn't play the way it was supposed to be played. So I didn't play. I didn't no longer play there. But I did have a great year, a great time at the University of Miami. I played with some of the greatest players of all time. One not too far from here, Aaron, as a matter of fact, as I was driving up here and I saw a sign that said Brooksville. Everybody always asks me who I think is the greatest player that ever played at the University of Miami. Humble opinion, it's Jerome Brown. I mean, Jerome Brown was one of the most outstanding football players I've ever seen. I've never seen a guy play defensive tackle and demand a double team or a triple team every time he was on the football field. So it's great to play with a guy like Jerome Brown, Michael Irvin, Melvin Bratton. Warren Sapp came in after me. The Rock came in after me. I always say that because people always ask me, did you play with Rock? Did you play with Warren Sapp? No, those guys are younger than me. I play with a lot of other great guys, Benny Blades, Brian Blades, Alfredo Roberts, Alonzo Highsmith, Benny Testaverde. I can go on and on and on and on. Like I said, I played on 2 national championship teams, so I played with some great guys and some great players. So in my humble opinion, probably the greatest football team ever played at the University of Miami was the 1986 team. Outstanding. Didn't win a national championship, but probably one of the best football teams I've ever seen. We held Penn State to 148 total yards of offense and still lost the game because we had 7 turnovers.
Oh
but played
man.
with some great people, played with some great teams, and I was just humble enough to be on those teams.
Right. Was Coach Rocco, was he the quarterback at Penn State at that time?
Coach Rocco's a little bit older than me. I don't think he was the quarterback at that time. No, I know he wasn't the quarterback at that
Okay.
time. Now his father, Rocco Sr., Frank Rocco Sr., was a coach on that team.
Got you. Yeah. So Coach Rocco, he was also on the coaching staff at Liberty University when I was there. Penn State grad. Him and his father, both of his father, fine men. I definitely hold Mr. Frank Rocco Sr. and Frank Rocco Jr. in the highest esteem. I have the utmost respect for those two guys. So yeah, cool. All right. So now we can exchange stories for days about all the conversations that we've had. Now take us to the time where you knew football was not for you anymore.
You know what? I don't know if that day has ever come, Aaron, to be totally honest with you.
No, as a player. I'm talking about as a player.
I know. That's what I'm saying. As a player, you still think you can play. That's
right.
That's the crazy thing about it. I think I didn't stop putting on pads, like helmet and shoulder pads, until about a year ago. I was 53 years old. I was still putting on pads, still trying to show guys how to take on blocks, still trying to show guys how to read blocks, still trying to show defensive linemen how to read the tip of the shoulder pad and the V of the neck. And so I was still putting on pads. So I don't know if you ever get over it, because you'll always have the technique.
Right.
You won't be as athletic, you won't be as fast, but you'll always have the technique. So you can still show guys some of the technique about what's going on. So I don't know if I ever got over it. But when I finally realized I couldn't play anymore was when I got cut from arena ball. When I got cut from arena ball, it was a wrap then. I'm like, you're getting cut from arena ball, it's time to give it up. So it's one of those situations where you kind of understood your body was kind of giving up on you. I had arthritis in my ankle, my knees was hurting. You know, it was just one of those things where my body was just beat up and I just couldn't take the constant pounding week in and week out anymore. I think it was 1996. As a matter of fact, that's the same time I gave my life to Christ. You know, it was May of 96 is when I gave up. My body was giving up. I was like, Christ, please put me in the right direction so I can do something. So it was one of those situations. But that's when I knew my body had given up on me. I knew I had to stop playing. I didn't have it anymore. Just couldn't take those hits, couldn't play 12 games, 10 games anymore. My body was just aching.
Right. So like a lot of athletes that find themselves at the end of the road athletically in any sport. I do know yourself, you just didn't know what to do. Talk about that time when football came to an end for you and you had to find something. Tell us about that time and how you dealt with it. Because I know a lot of excellent athletes go through that. It's depressing.
Absolutely. It's depressing for guys. I'll be honest with you, Aaron, if you're a psychologist and you can figure out how to help a young man make a transition from the limelight to the real world, you'd be a millionaire, because it's the toughest thing. Because as a football player, now the crazy thing about football, you can play pickup basketball games. You can't walk down the street with your pads and play a pickup football game. It just doesn't happen. So when football's over, it's over. So it's one of those situations. So you try to find that high. You know, you can't walk in the mall and do this and 70,000 people start screaming. Those things don't happen anymore. So that high that you used to get from football, it's not there anymore. So you try to look for it. And I tried it in a lot of different ways. I tried my own business ventures. I tried chasing women. I tried it in so many ways. I became a car salesman. I was probably a car salesman before I became a coach. I was a car salesman for 5 years. I was a closer. I was a salesman. I was a sales manager. You know, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was one of those situations where you got a chance to interact with people. It probably prepared me for recruiting, you know, trying to convince people to buy a product that they're not really crazy about. The same thing, trying to convince a young man to come to a school. So it prepared me for some of the things that I'm doing now. So I became a car salesman for about 5 years. But like I said, May of 96, when I gave my life to Christ, I'll tell you a crazy story. This is kind of how God humbled me. I wanted to buy a Domino's Pizza franchise. And part of being a Domino's Pizza franchise owner is you have to work at the store. So I worked at a Domino's franchise for about 8 months. And during those 8 months, one person recognized me. And me understand, and I was delivering pizza in Tampa. And one person recognized who I was. And so what it helped me understand is, and what God helped me understand is, you're not as big as you think you are. Doesn't matter if you're a 3rd round pick. Doesn't matter if you play at the University of Miami. Doesn't matter. Those things mean nothing. The only thing that matters is the love that you have for me. And so God helped me open my eyes and helped me realize that no matter how big you think you are, I think I've told you this story before, and I talk to guys all the time. I'm a football coach. I love what I do. If I quit my job tomorrow and the garbage man quit his job tomorrow, the people in the neighborhood would miss the garbage man long before they'd miss me.
Absolutely.
So you got to think what you're doing and what you're doing, the effect you're having on people. It's a blessing. It's a true blessing. So when I went through that phase and I realized, God, show me a direction. Show me where you want me to go and how you want me to get there. That's when he took me back to football. And I came back to coaching. My first coaching job was at Santa Fe Catholic High School, located in Lakeland, Florida. Coach Hash was the head coach at the time. Went there, crazy story, showed up. When I started selling cars, it was a guy by the name of Tony Gonzalez. He got a son named Tony Gonzalez Jr. Tony was a junior in high school at the time. He said, do you mind showing my son some techniques at linebacker? Because he played linebacker. I said, yeah, no problem. I said, but I don't want to step on the head coach's toes. So let me go and talk to the head coach and let him know what I'm going to be doing before I do this. And so I went and I spoke with the head coach. And he said, Coach, I'd love to have you do that. He said, but you'd be doing me a disservice if you weren't my defensive coordinator. Now, I laughed. I've never coached football a day in my life.
Right.
So those situations where he handed me a Miami playbook. I don't know where he got it from, but he handed me a Miami playbook. And he asked me, he said, can you learn this? I said, yeah, I know the linebacker play. So, I mean, I should be able to learn the rest of it.
Right.
So I did. And I studied it. And I started studying. I started breaking down film. All the things I didn't do when I was a player, I started looking at offensive formations. You know, when I played, all I looked at was what I was supposed to do and what the guys next to me, made sure the D-line was lined up properly. But now I started looking at what offenses were going to do, how they lined up. Man, I fell in love with that stuff. But that's not what I really, really fell in love with. What I fell in love with was before the game, when I was getting intense and those players were looking me in my eyes, I said, man, I got something they want to hear. I got something to say. So that's what made me fall in love with coaching football. But I knew I didn't want to do it in high school.
Right.
The reason why is I love young men to death. I think they're great. I can't deal with parents.
Right.
So that's why I went into the college ranks and I wanted to coach college football. And since I've been in college football, my mantra has been, I'm using football as a process to help produce better men, better husbands, and better fathers. And that's what I believe in, and that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what made me fall in love with coaching.
Well, I'm your outcome of that, because I like to think I'm a good husband, a good father.
We'll fly that under the meeting.
Right.
Well, the thing about it, I always tell people, because people ask me if I have kids, and no, I don't. I don't have any kids, but I like to think that I'm a great husband also. When I got married, my wife and I got married, I was 35. She was older than me. And the next thing you know, we're over 40.
I was there. I remember.
And she was like, I'm not having kids. Over 40. I was like, I'm cool with it. And so she was fine with not having kids. And I was fine with kids. And it worked out for us. But I always tell people, better men, better husbands, and better fathers.
Right.
And I'd like to see it happen in that order. And nothing against people that have babies outside of wedlock. Nothing against that at all. That's fine. As long as you love your kids, everything's great. But I grew up in a household. My mom and dad, before my dad passed away, they were married for 59 years.
Wow.
So that's what I saw every night.
Right.
So when I say better men, better husbands, and better fathers, I like to see it in that order, because it was my mom and dad. Then it was us as kids. And so that was the great thing about it. And that's why I put it in the order I put it in.
All right, right. And so your first college position was at James Madison, right? Boo. Yes. So yeah, so I don't even know if they have that. Your position was a strictly earnest.
Restricted earnings. No, they still have it.
Oh, they do?
They do. It's called part-time. Yeah, my first coaching job, I made $15,000 at James Madison University coaching the defensive end, and I absolutely loved every minute of it, because the relationship I developed with those young men, I still keep in touch with some of them to this day. And not
Zeb
just
Clark. I know Zeb Clark was one of your kids.
Yeah, and not just the guys I coached, but also the guys that were around me, the linebackers, because I coached the linebackers, the DBs. You know, Tony Booth. I think that year after I was there, he was a 7th round draft pick by the Carolina Panthers, and me and Tony still talk with each other to this day. Matter of fact, Tony's son, Tony Booth, I think it's Tony Booth III. Now he's at Michigan State. He's getting ready to play at Michigan State. So that's
Oh
when you know
wow.
you're getting old. When guys,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
coach,
yeah. You definitely old.
yeah, slow your roll, bro. Slow your roll. You know you're getting old when you start guys you coach, their kids becoming players now.
Right.
So like when your boys become players, it's gonna really be crazy because they're young right now. So if I'm still coaching when they become players, that could be
Yeah,
pretty
yeah. You
daggone
can be
crazy.
ancient. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great situation at James Madison, being able to do that and doing what I love, and made some great friends with those guys, and we're friends to this day. And some of the coaches on the staff still friends with those guys. So that's the great thing about it. That's the one thing I knew that I missed when I wasn't around football anymore. The camaraderie that you have, man, with these guys, the bond you have is just unbreakable. I mean, we met in 2000 and we're still
Right.
friends today. So, I
Right.
mean, that's the crazy thing about it. So I've been doing this for 22 years and I've made some unbelievable contacts, some unbelievable friends, and, you know, helped nurture a lot of young men.
Right. And then you found your way to Liberty Mountain, Liberty University. Like you said, that's where you and I met. I went to Liberty in 1999. Coach Sam Bertigliano, he decided to retire at the time, so we went through a coaching change. Got a new head coach, Coach Ken Karcher was hired, and he brought you on staff. Talk just a little bit about that, because I don't think people understand how different it is to be at Liberty first as a player, because I get asked all the time, well, how was it? Different. So they get my perspective, but as a coach, especially as you hadn't been a Christian that long, had you?
It was 2000 when I got there. I've been Christian for 4 years. I thought you was about to say the only black coach on staff. That was.
That
I
too.
think. Not at first. I think not at first I wasn't, but eventually I think I did. But
Right.
you're absolutely right. When I first got to Liberty, I grew a lot as a believer. You know, I didn't agree with everything that went on at Liberty. I didn't agree with a lot of the people that were at Liberty, but I still grew as a Christian. I still
Right.
grew as a God, because Ken Karcher did an unbelievable job of helping us nurture our spiritual side of us. And he did a great job of doing those things. We had Bible studies in the morning. Those things were outstanding. The great thing, that was my first full-time job. You know,
Right.
I'll tell you a crazy story. I left James Madison as a restricted earning coach, took the job at Liberty as a linebacker coach. I had been there 3 months, Aaron, and I was walking on the field one day and I took a drink of a soda and it chipped my tooth in the front. And my dental insurance had just went into effect. Because I didn't have any insurance, because I was a restricted earnings guy for the past 2 years at James Madison. Never got hurt, nothing ever happened. And as soon as my insurance went into effect, I chipped my tooth walking onto the football field drinking a soda. So it was one of those crazy things where, again, man, God may not come when you want him to, but he's always
right on time. Right on time.
But I was able to nurture my spiritual side at Liberty and really grow as a believer, and in leaps and bounds, man. Just being around the men that I was around, those coaches were unbelievable.
Right. And let me ask you something, because I mean, we're older. You was on staff. I was a player at the time. But our schedule then is harder. It was harder then than what the schedule is now.
I think a lot of that had to do with Coach Karcher.
Right.
And I think the reason it had to do with Coach Karcher, because Coach Karcher, he had only coached in the NFL and in the NFL Europe. So
right.
He had been a phenomenal athlete this whole time. So when he first got there, and he was playing team, and he played at Notre Dame and he played at Tulane. So when he got there, he was looking at teams like Charleston Southern and Gardner Webb, like, who are these guys? I mean, that's how he was looking at them,
right?
Not knowing that, hey, these guys play football also. So it's one of those situations where we had a tough schedule of a year. I was just laughing with someone the other day. We played Central Florida. I think we got blown out in Central Florida.
63-0.
Played USF. I mean, played Bowling. We played Bowling Green and Toledo back to back.
Back to back. They were both ranked at the time.
Yeah.
With NFL quarterbacks.
So that was the crazy thing about it. But Coach Karcher he believed in his system, and he believed in you guys. He thought we could do it. It was one of those situations where I think the best season we had when I was there, we were 6-6.
That was my senior year.
And that was a 2003 year. The most memorable game in the world happened then. You remember that game, don't you? The greatest game.
Which one was that?
Oh, come on, man. The VMI game. You
Oh
don't
yeah,
remember?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And we're losing 28-3 going into the fourth
Fourth
quarter
quarter, right?
and won 31-28.
Yeah,
And we only threw the ball twice in the fourth quarter. Eugene Goodman and Dre Barnes
man,
lit it up. I mean,
man,
those two guys lit it. I mean, it's like they couldn't be stopped. They were averaging like 10 yards a chunk.
man.
It was unbelievable. So I mean,
Yeah.
that game was a phenomenal game.
Yeah, that game probably the most memorable, and also for me, Hofstra too that year because Hofstra at
Yeah,
the time was a national powerhouse, and they had pounded us for the 3 or 4 years that I was there,
absolutely.
um, and it felt so good. It felt so good to end my season with the win with them, and I actually batted down the last play of the game. I batted the pass down. We won the game. When I tell you that was so sweet, man, it was just a exclamation point on first of all on a good season, but on a career too because like I said, we had a brutal schedule every year I was there. So to finally get to 6-6, play Hofstra and beat them, that really felt good. Really felt good.
It did.
Uh,
It did feel good. I'll tell you a funny story. Also, afterwards, we would always pray with everyone. In the middle of circle, especially when we're at Liberty. If someone would give a testimony or whatever the situation would be, one of their players refused to pray with us. He's like, I'm not praying for these guys. My man just left the field. I was like, wow, it can't be that serious. You want to pray with us?
I get it. I get it though. I get it though because I
Tough
mean when you think
situation.
about it, we was a Christian team, so they think they're supposed to come in and pound a Christian team from Lynchburg, Virginia. Okay,
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
right,
Yeah,
cool.
we did some great things, man. We really did. I mean, not only that game, but if you remember too, the year before that, Dell State had come back on us. They had I can't remember the receiver's name, but he played for the Redskins. I mean,
Redskins,
the
right?
Washington football team. He ended up getting drafted in the fourth round by them. When we played them at Dell State, he killed us. Then the next year, we smashed them. I don't even think they scored 3 points. It was a great
Nope,
situation, great game
nope,
for us. So, yeah.
nope. Yeah, man, some good memories, some good memories. So it was the year was so good, you left.
I got a great opportunity. I mean, I was on the road recruiting, and I'll never forget. Coach Carter reached out to me and he said, "FIU would like to talk to you." And I said, "About?" And he was like, "Well," said, "Is the linebacker job?" And I was down in Virginia Beach recruiting. I was at Chuck Parrish's house. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you remember Big Chuck.
Yeah,
I
I
was at
do.
Chuck Parrish's house, and I was actually in Truck's trailer at the time. We were eating, and Coach Carter called me. I said, he wants to talk about linebacker job. He said, no, actually, I think he wants to talk to you about defensive coordinator. I was like, oh, okay, really? So I reached out to Don Strock, and that's exactly what he wanted to talk to me about. And just so happened the coaches convention was coming up that next week, and so I went down to. It was in Orlando. I remember going to Orlando and driving to Miami for a day to talk with Coach Don Strock, and he told me he wanted me to be the first coordinator. Now, this is the weird part about it. They started football at FIU in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
For the first 2 years, they would alternate whoever called the games. Like
Oh
no one
wow.
was a coordinator. They would
Oh man.
alternate on who called the games. Like sometimes Coach Hurley Brown would call the games, and then sometimes the defensive line coach, he'd call the games. And Coach Strock would go out before the game and say, okay, you're calling the game this week. Make sure you keep one high safety. So it was like
Hey.
one of those. But then he brought me in and he asked me to come in, and he said, I want you to come in and be the coach. So I was the first defensive coordinator they had on the staff. Now, they started in 2002, but they didn't play until 2003, and then he hired me in 2004. But what Coach Brown did for me, Coach Hurley Brown did an outstanding job of bringing me along, because this is the other weird part about it. Coach Strock did not want me to bring the defense that I had just run at Liberty.
What?
He wanted me to learn their defense.
Oh wow.
And because he's like, it's easier for you to do it than us to get these 60 players.
Coaches, right? I mean the players.
And so I was the only one that had to learn a new defense.
Right.
Everybody else, but he gave me the time to do it. Like that first year, we took our lumps. And then the second year, we played much better. It was a situation where we came back and we ended up beating our rival FAU. I'll never forget. It was probably the greatest feeling. We beat them 56-7.
Ooh.
And the great thing about it was we scored 4 touchdowns on defense.
On defense.
We had 5 picks, scored 4 touchdowns. We only gave up 7 points. It was unbelievable. The funny part about it, my wife knows how I am. We gave those 7 points. I was hot as
right.
I was
right.
hot as It was one of those situations where she's like, "Babe, y'all won the game. You smashed them. I said, yeah, but we gave up 7.
It was 7 points.
She's like, let it go. She said, it isn't that serious. LIG, let it go. And she
Right.
was right. And the guys loved it. But the great thing about that game was it was called the Shula Bowl. And they had a trophy for the game. So they had beat our guys since the inception of that. So to watch our seniors sprint over to their sideline and grab that trophy.
Grab the trophy.
Pick it up. It was just a phenomenal feeling for our guys to have that feeling. So it was good to get there. Coach Hurley helped me along, helped me learn the defense, did a great job, phenomenal job. Coach Strock gave me the time to learn the defense, and we did well. We did well. Then for 2 years, and then after the second year was my next journey. It was more a move kind of for my wife.
Right.
My wife came back to USF in 2006, and my wife just wanted to be closer to home. My wife's from Tarpon, which isn't far from here, and all of our families in Tampa, and I had an opportunity to come home to Tampa, and so we just took advantage of that opportunity. So, and that turned out to be great.
It's not like you was lacking players. JPP.
No. We didn't lack any players. There's no doubt about that. So it was a situation where that happened, but I was only here for a year.
Right.
And Mario Cristobal called me, and he said, "Hey, can you come back and help me with this thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, no big deal."
Right.
So I went back down to Miami, but my wife didn't go to Miami. My wife's like, "I'm staying here.
Staying here.
You get an apartment down there. I'm gonna keep the house here." So
Right.
we did that. We did that for a while, and I was at FIU for a couple of years after that, and then ended up getting fired for reasons we won't talk about.
Okay, we won't talk about.
I had irreconcilable differences with some of the coaches, probably the best way to put it.
Okay.
And so that happened, and then after that, I had an opportunity to go coach at the HBCU, which was a phenomenal feeling to go to Hampton University.
Hampton, okay.
And be the defensive coordinator at Hampton. And
I remember that.
Yeah, I had a great time. And to be at the HBCU, when I went to a PWI, a predominantly white institution, for people that don't know what a PWI is, to go play at University of Miami, which I think is one of the greatest football teams ever, played one of the greatest universities ever. I love my school, but to go to Hampton and watch all those young Black kids going to class, it was like to see the majority as opposed to minority was phenomenal. I had an outstanding time there. And I was only there for a season. And then Coach Wanstead called me. And he was the head coach at the University of Pittsburgh. Now, Coach Wanstead, I've known him since I was 19 years old because he coached me at the University.
Right.
So Coach Wanstead called me and he's like, "Hey, Tiger." My nickname is Tiger. So that way people know what's going on here, Aaron. My nickname is Tiger. He said, "Hey, Tiger, I want you to get a chance to come and coach at Pitt, coach come linebackers." Now I was a coordinator, but an opportunity to go to FBS school and be at the University of Pittsburgh, which was one of the Power Fives, couldn't pass it up.
Right.
So took an opportunity, went there, coached linebackers. And this is when I started becoming disappointed in the way football is run. It drove me to college football. We won the Big East championship.
Mm-hmm.
We're the Big East champs. I got the ring at home. My wife has the pendant. And then we get fired.
Right.
So left a real sour taste in my mouth, a real bitter taste. I'm at the coaches convention looking for a job. I wasn't real happy about that. That I'm looking for a job after we just won a conference championship. So that was a kind of a tough pill to swallow in that situation. But thought about leaving, thought about quitting, and my rock, who's been there with me, since.
You thought about quitting?
Oh, I was about to give it up. I was sick. Except my rock, 2002, January 15, 2002, I married the greatest woman in the world, Tammy Montgomery.
Miss Tammy?
Now she's Tammy Montgomery Clark. And she looked at me, she said, "Please, what else are you going to do? You're a coach."
Right.
She said, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." And she did. She went to work. She handled it. She took care of it. It wasn't an issue. She worked until I found another job, and boom. And she's always been like that. She works more. When I'm not working, she'll go out. She's a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines. She'll go out and she'll get things going and she'll get things rolling. And my wife stays right on top of it. That's why she's my rock. I always tell people there were a lot of women I probably could have married, I could have lived with. She's the only one I couldn't live without. So that's why I met her together, and we've always been together. And she's been there for me. And then, which was really good because after that year, I get hired at Colorado State in March. We're doing horrible. So I'm kind of anticipating if we don't do better, we're
You
probably
gonna get fired again.
So now here's a scary part. Colorado's an at-will state. And what that means is it's just like a regular job. Everywhere else I've had a 1-year contract.
Right.
So even if I got fired, I would still get paid until a certain period of time. Well, Colorado State wasn't that. So we got fired in November. Now, luckily, we had an AD that understood how coaching works, and so he kept us on contract until May. But then again, came back to, and again, one of those thoughts in my mind, I just can't do this. I'm tired of, these ups and downs are getting ridiculous. And I'll never forget, I get a call from a young man named Kerry Guy. And Kerry calls me, and I hope I don't get choked up. And he calls me and he said, Coach, I just need to talk to you. I said, yeah, what's up, Kerry? How's it going? He said, Coach, I just want to thank you. What you've done and did in my life when I was at Florida International. I'm in the military now. I'm married. I got 2 great kids. And I just want to thank you for being in my life. And I just started, I hang the phone up. I'm just crying.
Oh, absolutely.
And Tammy looks at me. She's like, what are you crying about now, you big punk? And so it's one of those situations where I told her what's going on. And I'm bawling because, like I said, that's why I do this.
Right.
And
right.
so also brings back the perspective for me, like, you're not doing this because of X's and O's. And this is an old saying. It's not about the X's and the O's. It's about the Jimmys and the Joes.
Right.
And that's why I do this. I don't do this because I want to be this phenomenal scheme football coach. What I want to be is a coach that understands these young men, that can help these young men grow. And that's what I was doing.
Right.
So it took me time to get a job again. But again, my rock was right there. Tammy's like, don't worry about it. If you get a job this year, you get a job. If you don't, I got this. And she's always said that to me. She's like, if you don't get a job, I've got this. Don't worry about it. So, and
now
I didn't get it.
Now let's fast forward. So you got a few more stops in between this, but you was at the University of Albany, correct? And then
University of Albany, but
okay. And then a very unique opportunity comes knocking that I know you had been preparing for a while. You get hired as the head coach at Robert Morris University. Talk to us about that, how that came about, and how's it going now, and how the season is looking.
I'll tell you this, the great thing about that, Aaron, is the fact that exactly what you said. Every place I've been, I've done my best to do the best I can at that point. And I've learned something from every head coach that I've been with. Even when I got fired with Mario, learned something from Mario, learned a lot of good things from Mario. Every coach I've met along the way, every head coach I've been with, I've met, and I've used those things, whether it's a schedule or anything like this. So when I got the chance to get that interview, it's funny, my agent was like, what do you think? I said, oh, they bring me in, I'm getting the job. He was like, come on, coach. I said, I'm telling you, if they bring me in, I'm gonna get the job, because I knew what I wanted to do. And oddly enough, I'm in Pittsburgh, I'll never forget when they talked about Mike Tomlin's interview. And they said how prepared he came in for the entire year. He had a schedule for the entire year. I remember that. So when I went to my interview, that's exactly what I had.
Right.
The schedule for the entire year. And I also got the PowerPoint from the head coach at UAlbany, who also helped me with the PowerPoint. So like I said, everywhere I've been, I've learned something from someone.
Right.
And there was a unique moment in the interview that I loved. It's unbelievable. I'm going through my PowerPoint. I'm presenting everything. And one of the guys on the board, he says to me, okay, you got the job. He says, we've hired you. We've given you the job. You're excited about the job. What's the first thing you're going to do on the job? And I look at him and I just smile. I say, can I go to my next slide? He's like, absolutely. I hit it. And my slide is 30, 60, 90 days. So for the next 30 days, this is what I'm going to do. For the next 60 days. He said, I just threw you a softball. I said, yeah, and I'm about to knock it out the park.
But those are things you got to do. If you're looking to prepare for a head coaching job along your journey, your coaching profession, it's CEO or CFO, whatever it is, you got to be ultra prepared for those opportunities when they come.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing is too, and I was looking at this, I was watching this pastor one day, and he said something. He said these things that jump out at me more than anything, because this is how my life was.
Right.
And when I was young, when I first got the job, I used to always want to be a head coach. I always looked at it. And I always said to myself, I'm going to be a head coach by the time I'm 50. And I told Tammy that. I told Tammy I'm going to be a head coach by the time I'm 50. But like 3 years would go by and I'd apply a head job. And Tammy would always look at me and say, you said about 50, right? Wait. And what this pastor said was, he said, don't let your dream become a distraction.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Don't let your dream become a. I got so caught up in becoming, I started losing focus, and she would always bring me back. Tammy would always bring me back. Don't let your dream become a. Now, I got this job December 17th, 2017. I turned 50 January 12th, 2018.
There you go. There you go.
So, and the other thing I've learned since I've been in this position, the other thing that's extremely important since I've been in this position, I'm never, ever going to let my position become more important than my purpose. My purpose has much more importance than my position. I'm never, ever, ever going to put my status above my service. I'm here to serve those young men. Without those young men, we don't have a job. And that's what I understand. So when I got the job at Robert Morris University as the head football coach, those are the things that I talked about. Serving those young men, making sure they leave there with integrity. I want to make sure they graduate. Probably the most proudest thing I've been a part of, Aaron, since I've gotten into coaching. Since I've been at Robert Morris for the past 3 years, our guys have maintained a 3.0 GPA in a football.
Oh, man, that's wonderful. That is wonderful.
Yeah, you know how hard that is with 100.
Hey, that's not easy. That's not easy.
And so we've done a great job. APR has been good. All those things have been on point, and we do a great job. If a young man comes to me and say he wants to go in the portal, I'm not upset with him. Like a lot of people get upset, but I'm not upset. Everybody's been transferring from schools for years. They just made it easier now.
Right.
What I want to know is why and what's your plan? Are you leaving here to do something? Because this is what you have to understand once you go in that portal. You leave here, you go to another school, guess who you take with you? You. Mm-hmm. So if you don't plan on changing something about yourself, no matter if you're going to another school, if you don't change something about yourself, the grass is greener on the other side because someone's taking care of it.
There you go.
If you ain't taking care of your grass, it ain't gonna be green. So I always tell a young man, I don't have a problem with you going to the portal, but what's your plan, man? What do you plan on doing? Because again, it's bigger than football. Right. And once you understand it's bigger than football, that this young man's leaving, he's upset about football and he's worried about being a football player. He's losing focus of the fact that you're also walking away from an education. And that's the thing that bothers me. A lot of these young men don't understand what's going on. I'll give you a crazy scenario. And this is what people don't look at. And we talked about this when I was at Liberty. There's 1,696 players in the NFL. Let's say there's 1,700.
Right.
And let's say a young man wants to play quarterback in the NFL. He wants to be a quarterback in the NFL. Each team, there are 32 teams, right? Each team keeps what? 3 quarterbacks?
3 quarterbacks.
Well, that's how many quarterbacks? That's 96. Am I right on that?
That's right.
96. So if you're a young man in college trying to make it to the NFL, you got to be the best out of 96 quarterbacks. You got to be the best out of 96. There's some guys who isn't a 96 plumber in the world, let alone the 96 quarterback. So that's what young men don't understand when their parents are talking about my kid's going to the league. It's special. It's special to get there. For 2 years, I was one of the special guys. But you'll lose that quick because every year they're bringing people in to replace you.
Right.
And that's what you have to understand. There are 96 quarterbacks. So whenever somebody says to me, NFL quarterback, oh, he's garbage. Even if he's number 96, he's still better than you.
There you go.
Even if he's number 96, he is still better than you. It doesn't make a difference. I mean, that's for people, they lose perspective of there's only 1,700 guys playing that sport, period. And That's what I try to get young men to understand. I'm never, ever, ever going to tell a young man he can't play anymore. because you know the story behind it.
Oh yeah, man.
We ain't gonna talk, we ain't gonna talk about
Yeah,
that
we're gonna
story.
talk about it. We're gonna move forward.
We're not gonna talk. But I'm never ever gonna tell a young man he can't play. But you gotta understand how hard you have to work to get there. That's why it's so funny when guys tell me, well, Coach, you know, if you look good, you play good.
Okay.
So y'all forget one thing. Dion was good. It wasn't that he just looked good. Yeah, he looked good. But Dion was good.
Right.
He didn't just go out there and have on the swag and all. No, Dion could play football. You got a lot of guys, they look good getting off the bus, but after that, you don't get anything out of them. So young men have to understand the importance of hard work, dedication, pushing themselves. And I tell them the same thing I just told you. Don't let your dream become a distraction. Don't ever let your position be more important than your purpose. And don't let misunderstand that your status can never be bigger than your service. So those are the things I like to talk about with young men.
Oh man. Well, and those are excellent points. You know, and if there are any young coaches out there who wanted or seeking advice, there you go. There you go. So in wrapping up, I do want to talk about one more thing before we get out of here. So I didn't know this until last week when you sent me a copy of your devotional. So you started writing a book at Liberty, and you've been working on it ever since then. I opened that thing up, man. I could not believe the words that were on those pages. There's a beautiful work of art that you put together. Talk to us about that, how it came about, and what you're going to do with it.
Well, it's a devotion. I want to get it published. I want to talk to someone about getting it published. Hopefully, you'll be able to help me with that, Aaron.
And yeah, I got a couple people.
What it's about is it's called "No One Ever Called Me Precious." And the reason I started writing it is because a lot of people get hung up on teenage pregnancies and women getting pregnant, and they always somehow tend to blame it on the woman. And no one's ever talked to the man about the importance of his body and how his body is the temple of God also. We give mixed signals when we're a kid. We tell a young girl, we tell our daughters, don't have sex until you're married. But we tell our sons, don't wear a condom. Make sure you wear a condom. They're mixed signals.
Right.
And so we grow up using ours as if it was a tool, but a young woman grows up as if hers is the most precious thing in the world. And so those are mixed signals. So I wanted to make people understand that a young man's body is just as precious as a young woman's body, and he shouldn't be using it here and there either. Right. We're all meant to be married and be virgins when we got married. Are those things going to happen? No, but you still got to understand the importance of your body. You got to understand how precious your body is. Even when I was in the world, and I always tell people to get a kick out of this, I got to say it, even when I was in the world, if a girl act like she was giving me something, I'm giving you something too. Don't act like you're the only one giving up something here. You know, it's just as important as your body. And so that's why I wrote it. I want young men to understand that their body is precious. I want them to know that your body is a temple of God, just like her body is a temple of God. And once you get married, that's when you experience the love that we're talking about. So no one ever called me precious. That's what it's about. And because no one ever told me how precious my body was. And everybody just told me, hey, make sure you wear a condom. You know, if you're going to sleep with a girl, be careful. And on the other stage, they told a woman how precious that is to her, how important that is to her, how she should hang on to that until she gets married. So the whole time we're chasing and she's running.
Strong.
And not only that, and what it does, it also affects marriage.
Right.
And I hate to say that, but it affects marriage because what's the first thing a woman takes away when she's in a marriage and she gets upset with the husband? The first thing she does is not want to sleep with it.
Yep.
Because again, it goes back to the preciousness of what's going on. But the thing I've heard and what people need to understand is once a man and a woman makes that commitment, they're going to be with each other for the rest of their lives. So you can't just take that away from. That's all he's getting for the rest of his life. Right. Because now he understands the preciousness of his body, but more importantly, he understands the preciousness of your body. And I think once those things are important, that's why I said. So I'm hoping I can get it published. I'm hoping people understand it's not just a Christian book. It's not a book written by a Christian. It's a book I think everybody can learn from.
Absolutely.
Because you got to understand the importance of a man's body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, like I said, we'll work behind the scenes. And if you're watching this and you have some ideas for Coach Clark about how to get that book published too, reach out to him. Where can they reach out to you, Coach?
They can reach out to me at Robert Morris University, head football coach. Be the best way to do is send me an email.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, and so, Coach, definitely thank you for your time. Man, I love you, man, from the bottom of my heart. You always
Love you
been
also.
always been a rock. And this is my first interview for for my sports network online. So I wanted to hit it out the park with a strong one. So I appreciate you giving me your time, traveling all the way from Pennsylvania to Tampa. You know this is home for you, and stopping by and give me some of your time. I really appreciate it. Really do.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I appreciate you having me on. You know, I love you also.
Oh, awesome. Awesome, guys. Hey, so thank you for tuning in. Robert Morris University head football coach, Coach Bernard Clark Jr. Guys, get your eyes on them this year. They didn't do as well as they wanted to last season, but I'm willing to bet. All right, I'm willing to put all the marbles on the table. Things gonna be a little bit different headed into this season. So keep posted, guys. All right, we're out of here, guys. All right. Thanks for having us. Take care.